So hey guys, welcome to another video, and today I want to talk a little bit about World of Warcraft Legion. So a little bit of a backstory with me and World of Warcraft. I started playing on EU launch and I played a human warrior. I played this warrior throughout the entirety of vanilla, Burning Crusade, and I quit towards the end of Wrath of Lich King. I was always a raider. I raided through the entirety of vanilla. I even killed a couple of bosses in the original Naxxramas, the same with the Burning Crusade and also the Wrath of the Lich King. The reason I left in Wrath of the Lich King was because of Trial of the Crusader. I played it far too much, I burned out, and overall I didn't like Trial of the Crusader. It was just such a bad raid when compared to Ulduar. I was like, yeah, I don't like this anymore. And that was a big shame because I missed out on doing Icecrown Citadel when it was still relevant, which was something I really wanted to do. I really wanted to fight Arthurs because I'm a huge Warcraft lore nerd. When I left the game, I gave my account to a friend who always wanted to play on the official servers, but had to play on private servers because at that time he couldn't afford to buy all the expansions and pay a subscription. But he could spare a couple of bucks every month to just pay the subscription. Now, unfortunately, after my friend realized that I've achieved quite a bit on this character and the account was valuable in terms of money, he sold it and got it permabanned. And that's something that I'm still mad about to this very day, because I've invested a lot into that character, and even when I gave him the account, I told him, no matter what you do not delete the warrior. Just don't do it. And he just sold it and got it banned, so I was like, you know what, dude, screw you. And we're just not friends anymore. After a while, when the Cataclysm beta started, I started watching Jesse Cox's and Total Biscuit's videos on the Cataclysm beta, and I was really impressed with what Blizzard did. So after about a week of thinking about it, I bought another account and I made my druid Hellmans. And with Hellmans, I played sort of casually through the majority of Cataclysm, then I raided through the entirety of Mists of Pandaria, I raided in Warlords of Draenor, but eventually I quit again after the release of Hellfire Citadel because there was just nothing to do in the game. It was just raid and log off. That was it. And even though I'm a raider and I love raiding, I need more than that. I can't simply log in, do the raid, log out and log back in and still have flasks and buffs from the previous raid. That is not enough for me to make it worth paying the subscription fee. Now, as you may have noticed already, I am not playing a druid in this footage, I'm playing a shaman called Rockybeard. He's a dwarf shaman, and he's the character I used my level 100 boost on that came with Legion. Now, the reason for this is that I tried Legion when it came out, and I got my druid Hellmans to level 109, and the max level is 110. I was just not feeling it. I couldn't even get him to level 110, and I thought I was just done with WoW. I've played it too much, I've been playing it for like 12 years now, and I thought I just outgrown World of Warcraft. I was just done with this MMO. But when I talked about it in a video, some people pointed out that it may be that I just don't like being a druid anymore. And those people were right. I just do not like any of the druid specs right now. And I didn't even think about that because I have over 3,000 hours played on that druid. That's in-game time. Yes, over 3,000 hours. So the investment in my character kind of made the game suck for myself. Which is unfortunate because Legion is a really good expansion. With my druid, I would constantly switch specializations. I would go Guardian for a little bit, but then get bored, switch to Resto, have fun for a little bit, then get bored. The same with Balance and Feral. And when I finally kind of realized that it may indeed be just me not liking any of the druid specs anymore, and I finally switched to the shaman that you can see on the screen right now, I was like, of course I want to play Enhancement. Enhancement is cool as hell, and I've been having fun ever since. I'm not even thinking about switching to Resto or Elemental anytime soon. Now, so far, I'm liking pretty much everything in Legion. I did get my druid to level 110, so I can see all the zones and kind of see how it works before I switch to my enhancement shaman. And the only thing that's kind of is the zones. Now, don't get me wrong, the zones look beautiful, the content in them is great, but they are kind of uninspired in my opinion. The only one that stands out for me is Suramar because the city of Suramar is absolutely beautiful and it must have taken such a long time to put it together. It's just beautiful. Stormheim, just like the other zones, looks really good and the quests are really good, but it's just a mountain with lakes and waterfalls. That's about it. Then there is High Mountain, which is just a combination of Grizzly Hills and Stone Talon Mountains. Then there is Asuna, which is just the coastal Naga zone that has a little bit of Legion in it. And finally, there is val'sharah, which is just the Night Elf zone and looks exactly like any other Night Elf zone, although granted it does have the added contrast of the Nightmare Corruption. But there is nothing like Blades Edge Mountains, just a weird zone that's just weird. There is no other word for it. It just makes sense. The entire island makes sense. It looks beautiful, but it's just stuff that we've seen before. Now, I'm not going to talk about the dungeons too much because I've only ran normal mode versions of them. I haven't done any heroic or even mythic dungeons, which is something I'm really looking forward to, but even the normal mode versions are pretty fun to do. I asked a couple of friends about the new raid, which I have no intentions of doing because I simply do not have the time to raid anymore, and they said that it was okay. It was a little bit bland because it's just corruption everywhere and everything is red. But overall, the raid is pretty cool, although they did say it was easier than the previous first raids. And class balance is apparently an issue at the moment, with Shadow Priests and Fire Mages being incredibly strong, to a point where you take as many Fire Mages and Shadow Priests into a raid as possible. They also complained about the new legendary system, where basically everyone gets a legendary if they are lucky, and if you do get the right legendary, you can just trash everyone in terms of DPS, which kind of sucks, I think. But I haven't experienced that on my own. It's just stuff that I've heard from my friends who are in a raiding guild and are actively raiding right now. Professions have also changed a lot. They have been basically revamped. In Warlords of Draenor, you would just sit in your garrison, you would gather insane amounts of stuff, then you would make something from all the stuff you grew in your garrison, and you sold it on the auction house. Right now, every profession has a bunch of quests, and they're fun to do, so that's great. Although from what I've heard, a lot of people are switching over to alchemy because potions and flasks are really expensive. So if you have alchemy, you're saving a ton of money by making your own flasks and potions, and you're also making a ton of money by putting them on the auction house. Next up, we have the class halls. As a shaman, I am in the Maelstrom, which is really cool. There is Neptulon chilling with us there. You have a little bit of a mission table, but it's not as bad as it was in Warlords of Draenor in garrisons, because you see other players of the same class running around and it feels much more social. The problem with garrisons in Warlords of Draenor was that it was just isolated from everyone. You would be sitting there alone all the bloody time. And as I've said already, that's not the case with class halls. You see other players, and also you don't spend an awful lot of time in there. You just jump in there, send off your followers onto missions, maybe unlock another trait on your artifact, and you get out of there. And I think that's cool. They took something they've spent a lot of time working on in Warlords of Draenor, and they kind of adapted it so it made sense in an MMO. Though I've only seen 2 of the class halls. The Maelstrom is number 1, and the Dreamgrove, which is the Druid one, is the second one. I haven't seen any of the other ones, so they may suck, but from what I've read, they don't. Now, the artifact weapons, well, the system itself is pretty cool. I like progressing through the artifact tree and unlocking little traits and big traits. It's really cool. It kind of gives me some feeling of progression with my character, but I think that they shouldn't have used iconic weapons. They should have just used new weapons, because everyone is running around with a Doom Hammer and bloody Ashbringers, and it just feels really weird. And I also don't know how people that either like having a lot of ults or just running all the off-specs possible feel about this, because it feels like you choose one spec at the beginning of the expansion and that's it, because, well, if you switch to another spec, you don't have as many traits unlocked, so you're not as good. Although for someone like me who really enjoyed the progression in the Burning Crusade, this is awesome, because I always have something to do on my characters. When I finally capped my druid, I was like, oh my god, I can do so many different things, what should I do first? It really feels awesome, especially after Warlords of Draenor, where you would log in, send off your followers on missions, and then sit there like, okay, I guess I will log out until raid time or until the missions are done. So thankfully, in this regard, the Legion is a huge step up from Warlords of Draenor. And finally, I want to talk a little bit about the social aspect of Legion, because it's much better than it was in Warlords of Draenor or even Mists of Pandaria. Some people really dislike this because they have to make groups if they want to go into Karazhan, and you generally just have to talk to people. If you have a quest for your profession in a certain dungeon, you have to go, hello, I have a quest in here, could we please do it, Mr. Tank? And people suddenly start talking and it feels like an MMO. And one very weird thing that I was just stunned by is that people gank each other like there is no tomorrow. Since the zones now scale up to your level, and there are world quests scattered all over the island for level 110 players, at least on Drakthul, which is the server I play on, there is so much ganking going on, and it promotes hatred between the two factions, which is something that I have not felt since Vanilla, where I was constantly ganked in Stranglethorn Vale around the Nessingway quests, or Burning Crusade, where people would just gank you randomly. And on my server at least, I would be surprised if you can get to level 110 without absolutely hating every single player of the opposing faction. Which then at level 110 turns into world PvP. I've seen some crazy battles around Karazhan. I'm so sad I didn't record this because I didn't think I would be making this video. But one day I decided to go into Karazhan to kill the first boss and maybe get a mount. As I'm nearing the Tower of Karazhan, I just hear this madness underneath me. I look down and I see about 40 Alliance and 40 Horde players going at it in a full-on brawl. Now I immediately got an invite from the Alliance leader, so I joined and we were going at it for solid 2 hours. It's amazing that people are finally interacting with each other again, whether it is by simply talking, in dungeons, or just murdering each other in front of Karazhan. Now, I'm not going to talk too much about PvP because I'm more of a PvE player, although I do take part in World PvP if it happens around me. But overall, PvP in Legion has been made much easier to get into. You don't need gear anymore, you just get a set of stats when you join a battleground or an arena, and it's more about skill. But anyway, I think I've been rambling for long enough, so I thank you very much for watching, as always, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.